Alright, hello everybody. This is an update about the upcoming severe weather day that is going to be tomorrow, beginning at about, I'd say 1 p.m., even as early as 1 p.m. It's going to be happening across southern Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. This is the current risk area that is projected from the National Weather Service or the Storm Prediction Center, and you do notice that now much of Ohio and much of Indiana is included in that slight risk area, and then now parts of southwest Ohio also have that enhanced risk area for severe weather. This does include Dayton and Cedarville, Ohio, so that is one of the places that could see some pretty strong thunderstorms. I believe that area will likely see more along the lines of damaging winds, while I believe the tornado potential will likely focus across southeastern Indiana and southwest Ohio. This is the SPC's current outlook. Would not be surprised, though, to see the outlook for the slight risk area be pushed a little bit farther to the north in parts of southern Michigan, as well as some models have begun to hint at some supercell thunderstorms initially developing in that region as well. So I would not be surprised to see an additional coverage of slight risk area here, and maybe this enhanced risk area get expanded a little bit as we get closer. The models are starting to become a bit more consistent now with this setup, so that's what we're watching with this. But I'm really going to be looking at the models. It's just going to be really a model breakdown of what exactly is going to be going on, and then I'm going to talk about where I will be storm chasing, which I'm thinking I'm going to be storm chasing in this northern portion of the risk area. So that includes areas similar to where I chased previously down in Indiana, Gas City, Muncie, those regions, and then I'm actually going to move east rather than push north, because the storms will be moving east as well towards places such as Wapakoneta, Van Wert, and Dayton is likely the places that this chase will take me to, depending on where the storms evolve and develop. Looking at the models, it kind of gives you an idea of how that's going to be set up. And then I might, at the very beginning of the day, chase extreme northern Indiana. Some models have hinted at Supercell kind of trucking along the northern part of the Indiana-Michigan line. So there's a lot of variables still at play with this setup. I will say that there's likely going to be a lot of changes to what I do tomorrow, because even the SPC's hinted at this setup being kind of a tough one to kind of figure out, and it is. There's still some variabilities in terms of the model setup. And then eastern Indiana, the expectation is that some more discrete supercells might possibly develop across parts of central Indiana before quickly becoming linear as they get towards eastern Indiana heading into Ohio. So I really think the tornado potential is going to be more maximized in parts of Indiana, where those initial storms begin to develop before they become linear and progress east-southeast towards southwest Ohio and then Kentucky as well. So that's really what I'm looking at. Here's some of the population areas that are in the risk area. Cincinnati is in that enhanced risk area. Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan's in that marginal risk area. Indianapolis, Indiana's in that slight risk area. And all these places have the potential of seeing damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado. Not really showing that tornado potential farther north, but wouldn't be surprised to see that pushed up just a little bit. And damaging winds, and then significant hail threat is going to be south of Indianapolis. I'm not going to chase down there. Too much wooded terrain down in that region, but still, that is something that is currently showing up on the SPC's forecast, and we'll look at why that might be the case come the models. So as I do this, if there are any questions, feel free to chime in with any questions that you may have. I am here to answer the questions for you guys, so just feel free to chime in whenever necessary. Alrighty, so let's start with a look at the models here. So here we have the RFSA. We're actually going to start with the HRRR because that is starting to update here at this point. We're going to back it up. One thing that kind of is going to be a big determining factor in this setup is likely going to be the morning convection that survives as a result of the severe weather and strong thunderstorms that are developing across parts of eastern Iowa. So that is something that will likely influence the potential for severe weather later on in the afternoon on Sunday. So what you see here is a progression of thunderstorms As early as 2 a.m. you have some thunderstorms in parts of Illinois. The expectation is that these will start to weaken. The question is how much will they die out before they arrive into Michigan and parts of Indiana, because the amount of convection that occurs will influence the amount of instability we have to work with later on during the day. So the HRRR, the newest model, does depict that there will be still quite a bit of convection still surviving as we get into the morning hours on Sunday, 7 a.m. You do notice that it is raining and there's a few thunderstorms still ongoing across parts of Indiana. That will influence the intensity of these thunderstorms come the afternoon. So you do see that it does begin to dissipate around 8 a.m. and start to filter out of the region. Now notice here, this is the one thing I'm watching because this is new that just popped up in the models. As these storms begin to initialize across parts of southwest lower Michigan and northern Indiana, you do notice this nice little supercell right here that kind of tends to pop up. Definitely a solid tornado sounding here. You got a nice low curvature with low level wind shear, strong speed shear embedded within this thing. Cape values of 3,500, a lot of 3 Cape as well. Good storm relative velocity, a lot of factors that come into place for that supercell to form. But the issue with this storm is that I likely won't chase this storm, mainly because I think, although the latest models do tend to show this setup as being pretty impressive with early in the day, I do think that some of the storms that develop later on in parts of central Indiana will be a bit more, bit stronger. Interesting thing I'm noticing though with the newest models is that these are not really showing up as they were on the RFSA, which kind of interests me and may lead to an alteration of chase plans, because all the models have recently depicted that this area would have some stronger thunderstorms developing, but as I'm looking right here, I don't really see that on the latest models. Rather, will be a big gap area, and then the storms will start to make their way into Dayton by around I'd say 7 p.m. You still have that severe weather sounding. Elevated cloud bases really doesn't look like these storms will produce tornadoes as they get into Ohio. With those elevated cloud bases, it's less likely to occur, but still showing that marginal tornado potential despite that situation. But it does look like that the HRRR is really starting to pick up on something a little bit different here, with the focus of stronger supercells being near South Bend. Marginal tornado potential, there's that nice curvature, lots of directional and speed shear with this. I wonder what they're showing with regards to let's go out to the regional map and take a look at where the mid-level jet's going to be placed at. Let's freeze frame it at about 1 p.m. for the HRRR model. Again, this is just me looking at the latest model runs for this weather event. So we're going to freeze frame on this, and we're going to look at some of the parameters associated with this. Mid-layer height. Now that's different because now what we're seeing is the mid-level jet, according to the HRRR, being displaced farther to the north. So that mid-level jet's going to, the recent expectation was that the mid-level jet would be much more down in the southern portion of Indiana and Ohio, but it looks like latest models are starting to show that it may wrap around just a little bit and push up towards southwest Michigan. So that could change things a little bit, but let's compare the models real quick. See what the other models say with regards to this. We got all the models for it. NAM still pushing it farther to the south. NAM 3K starting to have that northward push as well. RAP also showing that. RFS showing that southward displacement still. UK also that farther north displacement. GFS, HRRR. So I do think maybe here might be a bit more of the focus of severe weather, starting as early as 1 p.m. Then as we progress forward into the later on the afternoon, around 4 p.m., where does that go? Then it begins to push farther to the south. But it's still wrapping along this region here. This could change the entire setup of the storm here, the way this mid-level jet is rearranged. Let me take a look at some of the severe weather dynamics at 4 p.m. Let's look at the CAPE values. Increased levels of CAPE farther to the north now associated with this. You have that set of supercells that will congeal into a MCS later on in the afternoon. Still got those CAPE values of around 3,000. Models are definitely showing a change with regards to this setup. The NAM definitely placing a bit farther to the west with a lot more storms developing along this portion. Wow, quite a bit of a change with this latest run from the 0ZH RAP showing much more extreme amounts of CAPE. RFS showing still less CAPE as you get farther off to the north, and the CAPE will be focused farther to the south. I don't know which model to go with. There's quite a bit of, I'd say the greater consistency does appear to be shown. The blend of models NWS does show also that displacement of instability farther to the north. Let's back it up to 1 p.m. again with the CAPE values. Still generating here. There's where the initial storms develop. Yeah, blend of models seems to be flying along with the HRRR. RDPS, RAP, RFSA not really following suit, but the GFS definitely is following suit. I'm seeing a bit more consistency with the HRRR. As always, feel free to chime in with questions if you have any. I'm going to be kind of just investigating the models here, but it does look like I feel like my chase plans will probably shift a little bit. I'm still going to be kind of following this general area here, but I may start in a farther northward area, maybe start west of Fort Wayne, and then when I'm west of Fort Wayne, I will also trek. Well, hang on, let me pull up the local maps real quick. Let me pull up radar scope for a minute. Hopefully this pops up. Alright, there we go. Alright, so my chase plan is probably going to change a little bit. I may actually make my way down into Warsaw for those initial storms. Maybe Napanee, because I'm seeing this one cell that there's an expectation that a supercell will develop kind of in this area and then progress off to the east in this direction, and then will undergo some intensification in this region and then begin its drop towards the southeast. So possibly might just follow these storms down through Fort Wayne, up towards Defiance, maybe head towards Van Wert. So there's all kinds of possibilities here. The HRRR chain definitely has shifted things a bit. That mid-level jet's definitely going to be farther up here according to that model. Now I don't want to just place my bets on that one, but some of the models displace it farther this way. But that will change the game with this setup. Is my voice too low? I could turn it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That should be a little bit better. Yeah, glad to provide the information. But I do think I may change my chase plans. I'll have to look at the models again tomorrow morning, but that's a little bit of a change with regards to this setup. Let's go back to here. Let's look at the RFSA real quick. What they're showing 2 p.m. on Saturday, so let's go back again. RFSA does play that this convection will die out a lot faster, farther to the north, and there'll be a little bit more coverage farther to the south. I appreciate the help. Well, I appreciate the support, Taryn. Thank you. Progressing it forward. These begin to die out 10 a.m. and then around 3 p.m. again. Some of those models depicting that setup for that supercell near southwest Michigan, northwest Indiana, with marginal tornado potential present. And that's the difference there. RFS definitely has a great depiction of a large cluster of thunderstorms developing. Will the entire state get some rain? I would say much of the state will get rain. But it's hard to tell. There might be a few places it'll skip over, but these storms will likely go linear pretty quickly. I think up here where that mid-level jet will be more placed, which now appears to be up here, I think that's probably going to impact how quickly these go linear. But I do believe once they start to get towards eastern Indiana, these storms will get more linear, and pretty much anywhere in that direction is going to get some rainfall. So that'll be quite the change. But yeah, my chase plans will probably change as a result of this. I didn't foresee that quick showing of the change of the mid-level jet that is shown on the HRRR right now. So at 1 p.m. the mid-level jet's actually placed farther to the north, according to the HRRR, right in this region where that initial supercell is going to develop. It's going to follow along with the brunt of it right there. Haven't covered Michigan yet. I do believe in Michigan the threat is going to be a bit lower, but let me focus on Michigan for just a second here. So I'll do that live right now. Let's go focus on Michigan, and we'll do a forecast loop. Pull it up real quick. There we go. Is it going to pop up? Yes, it is. Alrighty. So here we have 9 p.m., which is pretty much present time. So what is currently being shown on the HRRR, this is just one model, okay? Not the RFS or anything like that, but models are consistently hinting at a supercell developing in this region here. So this convection will bring maybe a little bit of rainfall during the morning around 8 a.m. Quickly will dissipate, and then as we get into the afternoon hours, 1 p.m., there's those supercells I was looking at earlier, that initial one developing west of South Bend. And it looks like they'll undergo some intensification on the southern border of Michigan and northern Indiana. Get a sounding just south of the Michigan border, right along the toll road, marginal tornado potential. You got a lot of instability shown right here, 2,400, a lot of 3 Cape out there. Not really seeing a good curvature on your hodograph, but still. It looks like that storm that's going to be south of South Bend might be the play. And there will be multi-cell clusters kind of developing along this area. Some of those will have some potential to produce some damaging winds, but again, the threat for severe weather is not as significant up in Michigan as it is farther to the south. But you do see that the storms quickly become linear, and around 5 p.m. you have these storms pretty much covering and along a band extending throughout much of Michigan. And I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised if we had a shelf cloud along this band progressing forward. Lots of heavy downpours within this MCS, and then it begins to push out towards Ontario. But it does look like the majority of the state will receive rain, desperately needed rain, because some places are in a severe drought at this point in Michigan. So that's a bit of a change that is currently being shown. This right here, though, is likely the storms I may focus on during the day. They'll be moving slower, they'll be easier to keep track of, and they do seem to follow along with that mid-level jet that's going along with that low-pressure system, the upper-level trough that's coming in with this. So that is going to change my chase plans quite a bit. I'm going to have to do a little bit more looking at the models, but that's the latest update for Michigan. It looks like it's going to quickly become linear up there. Definitely marginal severe potential, maybe a bit more increased. Likely we'll have some severe thunderstorm warnings with some damaging winds associated with this line. And then maybe a few pop-up rain showers on the backside, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, but these ones on the backside likely won't be severe. Pretty powerful low pressure system. So yeah, I'm seeing the bigger severe weather potential though much farther to the south, which is why I'm probably going to head south. I'm near Fort Wayne and kind of west, northwest, and then also areas near Van Wert as well. Alright, let's do a quick look at Indiana again, because that's really going to be the focus of those initial supercells developing, according to the HRRR. I want to focus on that initial one that does pop up right here. This one just south of South Bend. Definitely have that good strong tornado sounding there, low cloud bases, strong directional wind speed, directional and speed shear, good instability. Would not be surprised to see a decent supercell, especially since these will be relatively isolated on their southern tip. Wow, these storms are this one looks pretty strong right here on the HRRR. If this trend continues, I may stick to a chase farther north in northern Indiana, because these look pretty strong at this point. Wow, this is going to be a nasty cluster of supercells if this holds together. Dropping to the south quickly towards Muncie. And then they start to form a more linear cluster as they get towards Dayton. But, you know, with the HRRR, if I'm just going off the HRRR, I would say best potential of seeing severe activity really fits right in this region here. This looks like a pretty powerful cluster of storms. I'll have to wait for what the RFSA shows. I wonder if there's any new updates with that. Oops, did not mean to do that. Back it up. I don't think there is any updates just yet. 21Z, that doesn't go out far enough. Remember, RFSA is just a prototype, but still, it's showing a lot of a different setup. It does still show those supercells, though, in South Bend. It still does show that setup there. Get a sounding of that. Marginal severe potential, though, it does decrease the amount of potential there is with these, but it still shows those strong storms in Fort Wayne. I may change my chase plan to follow along with these supercells, because the supercells that were shown in the HRRR were very impressive. Let's look at the updraft velocity with these around 6 p.m. Again, updraft velocity measures the strength and potential for updrafts, and there's a lot of updraft velocity with passing storms across northern Indiana and then places around Fort Wayne. So I think that's probably going to be my main target area right there. This is post when the storms pass through, so you can see why the hazard types change, and the hodograph's a little bit wonky. But yeah, that's probably going to be my modified chase plan because of that. So storm chasing at 1 p.m. tomorrow, maybe even earlier than that. I'm trying to plan it a little bit earlier because of that initial supercell that develops. So likely going to be targeting northern Indiana. May start in Napanee and then work my way east and southeast as I follow that supercell cluster. I'm going to be accompanied by a couple people for this chase. Be able to get an opportunity to keep track of that storm. Hopefully it doesn't produce anything too significant, but we'll be on it if it does. I think that's going to be the play. Feel free to chime in with any comments. Let me check Facebook real quick if there's any questions there. Looks like we're looking good. Ohio, I think you're mainly going to have more of a linear storm setup for damaging winds. Here's what the RFSA is showing. Again, RFSA is showing that really powerful supercell in southern Indiana, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And this one was very impressive, this PDS Tor sounding east of Bloomington in southern Indiana. So again, if RFSA verifies, really the bigger storms will be focused down in this region here, and I'm not going to be chasing down there anyway because I'm not very, that terrain is very, there's a lot of woods until if you get in this area, there's a bit more open areas, but near Bloomington in those regions, it's a pretty wooded area. So again, there could be some changes with these models. I'm going to carefully watch the models as they go through, but that HRRR model really is appealing to me at this point. That HRRR run, because it does seem to be following suit with some of the other models. There's a lot more model consistency with the HRRR than there is with the RFSA at this point. One model I have not checked is the NAM3K, so let's do that real quick. It's just releasing its 0Z update, so we're going to have to wait to get that full data. I'm going to back it up to 18Z, see what it's showing regarding that. We'll do my best to stay safe. Still showing that dying out convection Sunday morning. What does it show with pop-up storms? It's also showing those supercell clusters developing over northwest Indiana as well, but it's showing a quick linear development of storms and a large outflow, a pretty quick moving outflow boundary with that. Definitely going to have, if NAM verifies, definitely going to have significant damaging winds with that setup there. But I'm really interested in the northern Indiana play right now. So I think I might stick with that. We'll have to see how the models do, but northern Indiana might be the play. But still, southern Indiana is going to be very much under the gun for severe weather, and then you do notice that storms really take off across parts of Kentucky and Ohio. There's a lot of variability with the models right now. So it's really dependent on where that mid-level jet sets up, because the mid-level jet, some models are saying the mid-level jet's going to set up here. Some say it's going to set up down here. So the positioning of it. So if it sets up farther up here, then it's definitely going to be different than if it sets up down to the south. And the stronger storms will likely be focused down here if that's the case. But currently it seems the models are trending more north, so I might stay more north as well. We'll see what the SPC says, but I may bet on a northern Indiana play. I think that's pretty much all I need to show. Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio all under the gun for severe weather tomorrow. I do expect this to change quite a bit. I do think there will likely be more of a damaging wind threat here, and I do think they may extend the risk area farther west with this. So we'll have to see how that goes. But again, that's the SBC. We'll see what they decide to do. But I think that's all I'm going to show for now. But thanks for watching, and there'll be a final quick video update before I get out and storm chase around probably noon on Sunday. So stay safe, everybody. Hopefully this information was helpful to you. Make sure to subscribe. I'll be chasing at noon. There is a waiting room for that chase. You can go ahead and get notified of when it begins if you go to that video, and I will see you all on there a little bit later. Thanks for watching.